Oh, wow. Let me see. Where's my capo at? I think I left it.
With Congressman Mike Thompson, who actually spoke about what I asked him to talk about. Politicians don't always do that. He talked about anti-Semitism and about Israel, and we had some really great questions, and it was a really engaging evening. But this morning, we are shifting gears, and we are having a Saturday morning Torah service, which we haven't had for a while outside of the context of a bar bat mitzvah. But Leah, our education director, came up with the idea of offering a Torah trope class. And Barbara Gardner, Ann Persilay, and Howard Eisenstark all signed up for it, and they have been studying Torah for how many months now, Leah, would you say? Since March? Does that sound about right? For a number of months. And they're going to be reading from the Torah for us this morning. It is not easy. Anyone, raise your hand if you've had a bar bat mitzvah. And if you have had a bar bat mitzvah, keep your hand up if you've read from the Torah. It's not that easy, is it? So they're going to be reading Torah this morning, chanting Torah this morning, and we're so happy and honored that you're going to be doing that for us. And Leah is going to be chanting Haftarah for us. So thank you, Leah, for training them and for displaying your talents this morning as well. And I'm going to turn things over to Gordon now because we're going to open with an opening song,
which will be on page 188 at the bottom.
Essa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Essa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. Essa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Essa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. Essa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Essa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri.
Page 192. This prayer, it's not really a prayer, it's a passage from the book of Numbers that has been set to music, and it's a song that's often sung during the Saturday morning service. It's called Ma Tovu, and what's interesting about this prayer, this song, is that it's spoken by a Gentile. It's spoken by a prophet named Balaam, who is originally hired by a king to curse the people of Israel. But God changes his mind, and when he sees the people of Israel, he is so filled with uplift and spirit that instead of cursing the people of Israel, he blesses the people of Israel. And this passage is his blessing. Ma tovu ohalecha Adonai, how goodly, how beautiful are your tents, O Israel. And it's been set to music, and it's just interesting to note that this is biblical and that it is not composed by an Israelite, it's composed by a Gentile, by a prophet whose heart was turned by God, and it's been a part of the Jewish liturgy for many, many centuries. So Gordon, would you lead us in Matovu?
Yeah, we're just going to do the first couple lines in the version that's done in a round. So even though it's very repetitive, you can start it at different times. So, Matovu, O Halecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu, O Halecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. So I'll show you how we can do that. Matovu, O Matovu, O Matovu, O Halecha Yaakov Yisrael. Matovu,
Page 193.
That's very good. That's very good. They carried it, just the two of them.
Oh, good. Okay. Please join me in English on page 193. May the one whose spirit is with us in every righteous deed be with all who work for the good of humanity and bear the burdens of others, and who give bread to the hungry, who clothe the naked, and take the friendless into their homes. May the work of their hands endure, and may the seed they sow bring abundant harvest. We're going to turn to page 224 for the Chatzi Kaddish, and if you are able, please rise.
Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'cha yechon uv'yom echon, uchai decho beit Yisrael, bagala, uv'izman kariv, v'imeru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach, La'olam U'Olmei Almaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithaleh, V'yithalal, Shemei Dekudesha Barichu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'imeru amen. Lai la 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 la. Lai la 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 la. Lai la 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 la. Lai la 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 la. Lie, la 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 la. Barehu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach. Hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Page 228. Let's read the first verse of this prayer, Ma'ariv Aravim, in Hebrew, and then we'll read the translation in English at the bottom of the page. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei choshech, oseh shalom uvarei et hakol. Praised are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom you form them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai our God, for the excellent work of your hands. For the lights you created, may they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we may all swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai our God, creator of all heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. My apologies, this is Yotzer, the Yotzer prayer, not Mariv Maravim. That was last night. Let's turn to page 231. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded we saw the inner and outer worlds are one, as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries. Your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 240. I mentioned earlier that Matovu is this sort of rhetorical question. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel, and it was uttered by a foreign prophet, Balaam. Here we have another rhetorical question, Micha Mocha, who is like you, uttered by an Israelite, Miriam, who is essentially saying, no other gods are like you. There are no other gods besides Adonai. And she says this as the people of Israel have crossed the Sea of Reeds and are about to begin their 40-year journey through the wilderness. And even though it's going to be a hard journey, she tries to inspire them and get them off literally and figuratively on the right foot. So Micha Mocha is on page 240.
Yam bam bam bim bim bai yabba bai ba bim bam. Yam bam bam bim bim bai yabba bai ba bim bam. Yai la 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 yabba bai ba bim bam. Yai la 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 yabba bai ba bim bam. Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot o sefel, Nora tehilot o sefel, Shira chadasha shibechu geulin, L'shimcha l'shimcha asafat hayam, Yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu v'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Yam bam bam bim bim bai yabba bai ba bim bam. bye, yabba bye, bye bim bum. Yai lie la la la, yabba bye, bye bim bum. Yai lie la 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 la, yabba bye, bye bim bum.
Before we continue with the Amidah, I just want to call your attention to a passage at the bottom of the page, page 241, written by a rabbi in Chicago, Herbert Bronstein. Some of you may know his son, Rabbi Daniel Bronstein, who's one of my best friends, who married me and Carolyn, and who spoke here as a scholar in residence, Ellen, what was that, 4 years ago? Probably 4 years ago. But he wrote a passage in response to Micha Mocha that I think is also relevant to the Passover Seder that I just want to read because it's a really insightful one. Egypt is symbolic of any bondage, any slavery. In singing the Song at the Sea, we sing our present experience of redemption as well as the historic redemption of Israel from Egypt in our past. Every day, said the rabbis, we are sold into slavery, and every day we are delivered. Every day we experience the miraculous as real as that at the sea. It's a very profound teaching. We are enslaved every single day. We're enslaved by our fears. We're enslaved by our struggles. We're enslaved by those forces that hold us back. And yet, hopefully, every day we are also delivered. We are also redeemed. And that is why we should celebrate, not only on Shabbat morning or during the Passover Seder, but each and every day of our lives. It's a great way of looking at the world, not as a given, but as a gift. And so I just wanted to read this passage because we often skip over the passages at the bottom of the page. We're going to continue now on page 242 with the Amidah. If you're able, please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fia gita ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei v'nehem, L'man Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozeru Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia. Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Mechaye hakol b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'agavurot, Umidom melach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'neman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. page 258. 258. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Chen v'chesed v'rachamim Chen v'chesed v'rachamim Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Amecha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha
At this point in our service, we think of those in need of healing on this Shabbat, healing of body, healing of spirit, and healing of heart. And we ask God to bestow the bracha, the blessing of refuah shlema, full and complete healing on the following men and women from our congregation or those known and loved by our community. Ilana Massey, Kevin Brackett, Michelle Camisia, Joshua Hyman, Diane Butler, Jesse Friedman, Beverly Eigner, Marjorie Gilberg, Michael Blend, Jim Mates, and Scott Cohen. And the Misha Baruch is not only a blessing for healing, it's also a blessing for well-being. So as is tradition, we include in this Misha Baruch all those who are about to be called to the Torah this morning, Howard Eisenstark, Ann Persillet, and Barbara Gardner. And if anyone has a name they want to add to our list, I invite you to please do so. The Misha Baruch is on page 511.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe berach imo Bracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah, is on page 362. I would like to invite Barbara and Ann and Howard to come up to the bima, and everyone else to please rise.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kama'asecha, malchutecha malachut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim, eitiva v'tzonecha es Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, ki v'cha levad betachnu, melech el ram v'nisa adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti u'neromama shemo yachdav. Exalt Adonai with me, and let us extol God's name together.
Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod. Ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Adonai hamamlacha, v'hamid na'aseh lechol rosh. Ronemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu l'har kodsho. Ronemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu l'har kodsho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Ronemu, Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Ronemu, Ronemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu l'har kodsho. Ronemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu l'har kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. He kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos. Rona, you can sit if you want. So we have our Torah readers up here in order. We have Howard, and then Ann, and then Barbara. They've been working long and hard to read from this Torah portion. I'll be speaking about it a little bit later. It's called Ki Tetzei. It's from the book of Deuteronomy. It's toward the very end. It's part of Moses. It's Deuteronomy chapters 21 through 26. So we're getting very close to the end of the Torah. It is part of Moses' farewell speech to the people of Israel before he dies. And it also contains a passage that I'm going to talk about momentarily about remembering Amalek. Amalek, one of the great villains in the Bible, one of the great enemies, foes of the Jewish people. If you want to follow along in your Chumash, if you want to pick up a copy of the red translation of the 5 books of Moses, it's on page 1112, 1112, if you want to follow in English as we chant from the Hebrew. So I'm going to call up our first Aliyah to start. Ya'amud Aliyah Reshit Chaim Matal Bar Shia David.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Lo titaev adomi ki achicha hu. Lo titaev mitzri ki ger hayita v'artso. Banim asher yivaldu lahem dor shlishi yavo lahem b'kal Adonai. Ki tetzei machaneh al oivecha v'nishmarta mikol davar ra. Ki yeh v'cha ish asher lo yeh tahor mikre laila v'yatsa el michutz lamachaneh lo yavo el toch hamachaneh. V'haya lifnot erev yirchutz b'mayim ukvo hashemesh yavo el toch hamachaneh. V'yad tiyeh lecha michutz lamachaneh v'yatzata shama chutz. Vayiteid tiyeh lecha al azenecha ado v'haya b'shivtecha chutz v'chafarta va v'shavta v'chisita et tzeatecha ki Adonai Elohecha mitalech b'kerev machanecha lahatzilcha ulteit oivecha lefanecha v'haya machanecha kadosh v'lo yirevecha ervat davar v'shav me'acharecha. Lo tasgir eved אל אדוניו, אשר ינצל אליך מעם אדוניו. עמך ישב בקרבך, במקום אשר יבחר, ויחד שעריך בטוב לא תוננו. לא תהיה קדשה מבנות ישראל, ולא יהיה קדש מבני ישראל. לא תביא אתנן זונה, ומחיר כלב בית אדוני אלוהיך לכל נדר, כי תועבת אדוני אלוהיך גם שניהם. לא תשיך לאחיך נשך כסף, נשך אוכל, נשך כל דבר אשר ישך. לנוכרי תשיך, ולאחיך לא תשיך, למען יברכך אדוני אלוהיך בכל משלח ידך על הארץ אשר אתה ושמה לרשתה, כי תדור נדר לאדוני אלוהיך, לא תאחר לשלמו, כי דרוש ידרשנו אדוני אלוהיך, מעמך והיה בך חטא, וכי תחדל לנדור לא יהיה בך חטא. מוצא שפתיך תשבור, ועשית כאשר נדרת אדוני אלוהיך נדבה, אשר דיברת בפיך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yeshikoach. And now I have the honor of calling our second Aliyah, Ta'amod, Aliyah Shniya, Chana Bat Yaakov Umata.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Kitavo.
Kitavo. It starts at page 1112,
125.
1112.
2325.
All my students.
Chapter
are
23,
checking
verse
me out.
25.
My students are checking me out. Ki tavo bekerem re'echa be'achalta anavim kenafshecha sovecha ve'el kelyecha lo titein. Ki tavo bekamat re'echa V'katafta mililot biyadecha, v'chermesh lo tanif al kamat re'echa, ki yokach ish Isha uvala v'haya im lo timsachen be'enav. Ki matzava ervat davar v'katav la sefer keritut v'natan b'yada v'shilaha mi beito v'yatze'a mi beito v'halacha v'hayita le'ish acher usneya ha'isha acharon v'katav la sefer keritut v'natan b'yada v'shilaha mi beito o ki yamut ha'isha acharon asher lekacha lo leisha lo yochal ba'ala harishon asher shilacha lashuv lekachta liot lo leisha acharei asher hutama ki toevahiv lifnei Adonai v'lo tachati et haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And now I get to have the honor of calling our third Aliyah, Barbara, Ta'amod Aliyah Shlishit, Brina Elka Bat Yitzchak Vefega.
Baruch et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Amvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ki yikach ish isha chadasha lo yetze batzava v'lo ya'avor alav l'chal davar naki yeh leveto shana echat v'simach et ishto asher lakach lo yachavol rechaim v'rachev ki nefesh hu chovel ki yimatzei ish gonev nefesh me'achav mibnei Yisrael v'hitamar bo umcharo umet haganav hahu uviarta hara mikir becha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Would everyone please rise?
Shlosha Devarim, Shlosha Devarim, Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omer, Shlosha Devarim, Shlosha שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים.
No, you stay up here. Before we turn to our Haftarah, I was so impressed with your chanting, with your reading, and so moved by your commitment to this. This is often when I get to offer a charge to the Bar Bat Mitzvah student, but you're already past that. You're sort of the special forces of B'nai Mitzvah. To commit to this course of study and to read from the Torah so well, and I know you were nervous about it, is really an achievement. It really is an achievement, and I'm so proud of you. I invite you in the future, if you'd like to do it again, you're always welcome to. But I would like to offer you a blessing before you sit down and enjoy hearing Leah and the rest of the service, because I'm just so moved, and I'm happy to be your rabbi. This makes me very pleased. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisad Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be with you and grant each of you peace. And let us all say, Amen.
My students were making sure that I did it right, and if I did, they know that they say fake it. Thank you.
We now honor their teacher. Each of them is a teacher in their own way, but Leah is their teacher. You've been my teacher in some ways too. And Leah's going to be chanting from the book of Isaiah, associated with this Torah portion. So I believe you should be able to find it at the end of that Torah portion in your Chumash. It's chapter 54, verses 1 through 10. And Isaiah is a very important prophet all year, but especially this year. And we're going to be reading another very famous passage from the book of Isaiah on Yom Kippur morning in just a few weeks.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nbi'ei ha'emet v'hatzedek. Rani yakara lo yalada pitzchi rina v'tzachali lo chala ki rabim b'nei shomei maha Mibnei ve'ula amar Adonai Harchivi mekom aholech Viriot mishkenot hayich Yatu al tachsochi Harichi metarayich Vitedot hayich hazeki Ki yamin ushmol tifrotzi V'zarech goyim yirash, ve'arim nishamot yehoshivu. Al tirei ki lo tevoshi, ve'al tikalami ki lo tachpiri, ki voshet alumayich tishkachi, ve'cherpat al menutayich los tizkeri od. Ki vo alayich osayich Adonai tzevaot shemo v'go alech kedosh Yisrael Elohei chol haaretz hikareh ki cha'isha azuva v'atzuvat ruach kera'ach Adonai ke'eh Keshet Neurim, Ki Hima'es Amar Elohayich, Berega Katon Azavtich, Uvrachamim Gedolim Al Kapsech, Beshetzef Ketzef, Histarti Fanai Rega Mimech, Uvchesed Olam, Richamtich, Amar Goalech Adonai, Kime Noach Zod Li, Asher Nishbati, Me'avor Me Noach, Od Haaretz, Ke Nishbati, Miketzof Alaich, Umike Orbach, Ki Hecharim Yamushu, V'hagevaot Timutena, V'chasti, Me'itech lo yamush, Uvrit Shelomi lo tamut, Amar merachamech Adonai. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, Tzur kol ha'olamim, Tzadik b'chol hadorot, Ha'el ha'ne'eman, Ha'omer ve'oseh, Hamdaber umkayem, Shechol devarav emet v'tzedek, Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanbi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Likdusha v'limnucha, Lechavod ultifaret, Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu modihim lach, Umvarchim otach, Yitbarach shimcha, B'fi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai, Mekadesh ha'shabbat.
Shakoach. That was beautiful. I have to say, Leah, I don't know if we have any baseball fans here, but in baseball, very rarely someone emerges known as a player manager who is so good they not only perform and play, but they also coach and teach. Don Kessinger was one at Chicago White Sox. 100 years ago, Jim Thorpe did that. And you've kind of done that today. Not only did you teach so beautifully, or coach, and Barbara and Howard, but you also yourself have such a beautiful voice and raised our spirits through chanting the Haftarah. So thank you so much for all that you have done and all that you continue to do for our congregation. Yeshar Koach. I'm going to give a little drosh.
Oh, you're going to do a little
Yeah,
drosh?
and then we'll put it away.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to offer a little drosh before we put the Torah back.
Okay. I'm just going to stand here and just heckle you, if that's okay.
You could heckle me.
I don't
if
get
you-
a chance to do that very often.
You could look over my shoulder
I
and...
think our congregation would really look forward to that.
Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos again to everyone, and thanks again to all of you for your beautiful reading, and it's good to see everyone else who's here celebrating Shabbat with us and honoring our readers. As I said earlier, this Torah portion is Kiteitzei, Deuteronomy 21 through 26, and it's the beginning of Moses' farewell speech. It contains, to be frank, a lot of boring stuff in it, unless you dig deeply. It's a collection of laws and regulations and practices. It has to do with rights of women. That's important. Property issues, some of those are pretty important too. Treatment of animals, that's important as well. So maybe it's not so boring. They're actually hidden in all these rules and regulations, some real gems. But tucked away toward the very end of the Torah portion is the following seemingly out of place recollection and command. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek baderech betzetchem mimitzrayim. Remember what Amalek did to you on your journey after you left Egypt. How undeterred by the fear of God, he surprised you on the march when you were famished and weary, and cut down all the stragglers in your rear. Therefore, when the Lord your God grants you safety from all your enemies around you, in the land that the Lord your God is giving you as a hereditary portion, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. Timche et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim lo tishkach. Blot out his memory and never forget. Now, among all the other ancient peoples with whom with whom Israel, rather, had conflicts, think of the Egyptians. Only Amalek, not even the Egyptians, only Amalek is singled out for this specific and what seems very vengeful command. And yet it seems paradoxical, because it says we should remember the people of Amalek, but then it also says we should wipe out their memory without reservation or qualification. How do you remember someone and also at the same time wipe out their memory? But that aside, this sort of outright condemnation of an entire people does not occur anywhere else in the Torah. And it seems almost odious, almost hateful. Is it because Amalek specifically targeted the weak and the infirm and the vulnerable among the Israelites, who were already weary and exhausted? Is that the reason that God's condemnation and command is so harsh? It may be, but this expression of vengeance, not only for Amalek, but for all of the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who follow, seems very jarring to us as Jewish readers. What about forgiveness and compassion, some of the values we have up in our very sanctuary? It also seems inconsistent with other earlier Jewish teachings and principles. In Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 20, a little bit earlier, we find the very famous verse that I think I talked about a couple weeks ago. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Now, justice is about fair play. It's about equity. It's about making things right. Vengeance is about punishment. It's about retribution. It's about retaliation. There is a primitive, almost emotional aspect to vengeance. And as Jews, I wonder, how do we reconcile this apparent ambiguity in our tradition? We know that justice is one of our religion's highest goals. I think tzedek is up here. Tzedakah is another form of justice. We know that justice is one of our highest values, one of our highest aspirations. But is vengeance ever acceptable? And I think I want to talk about this for a minute, but I think about Israel and terrorism, or I think about World War II and some of the Jewish partisans. I just saw a movie again about the Belsky brothers, who were essentially Jewish partisans who retaliated against Nazis and Nazi sympathizers and killed many of them. Or Israel, after the 1972 terrorist attack on a Jewish Olympic wrestling team in Munich. Israel spent years tracking them down, and eventually the Mossad assassinated a great number of them. Or you think of Adolf Eichmann in Argentina being brought to Israel and ultimately being executed. So what is justice and what is vengeance? When is it okay to act in a way that seems retributional, if that's a word? And when is it not okay? And I wonder if we could just spend a few minutes talking about it. Is it okay what the Mossad did? Is it right that the Belsky brothers went out and assassinated Germans and Poles who were sympathetic to the Nazis? Or does Judaism teach us maybe to act in a way that expresses a different value? I don't think justice and vengeance are always the same thing. And I think in this Torah portion in particular, the idea of punishing Amalek's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to the present day somehow doesn't seem right. So any thoughts on this? It's a tough issue, right? Just speaking to the mic for the people at home.
Right. Rabbi, I think your mic might be muted.
My mic is muted?
I think it might be.
Oh. This mic?
Yes.
No, it's not muted. Can you hear me?
Is it on?
Yeah, no, it's not muted on this.
But is there a display? Is the light on?
Oh, I think it ran out of batteries.
It's unfortunate.
Oh, well, sorry, people at home, we ran out of batteries.
Turn one of the beam of mics towards you.
You know what, I'll just stand here.
Okay.
I'll stand here. Sorry, for those of you at home, my batteries ran out, so you'll hear me from here. Okay. Yeah, Howard, go ahead. Excuse me. Graham, that mic's not working either.
Sorry. The first line of my portion, don't hate the Edomites and don't hate the Egyptians, because we were a stranger in their land. The Egyptians and the Edomites are brothers, family. It does seem interesting that the Amalek is singled out, but I was reading something somewhere else that somebody wrote that remembering is what brings hope and forgetting it leads to despair, that we have to remember both the good things and the bad things to have hope for the future. So I think for me, this trying to remember but blot out the name of Amalek is remembering that our path to where we are has not been smooth and easy, and that there will be challenges in the future, and that we need to, take the good with the bad, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you. I think of Yom HaShoah when you mentioned that. We have a commemoration every year of Yom HaShoah to remember the Holocaust. We're not remembering anything good, we're remembering something horrific and tragic. But as you, I think, correctly say, in order to have hope for the future, you need to remember the past, and that includes the past in its totality. Other thoughts about vengeance versus justice and when one is more appropriate than other.
I'm thinking about the Nazis and how after the war we have to forgive in the people of Germany now. We have to remember the good things that they have produced for our society. And, but that doesn't mean we have to accept the Nazis, even today.
Right, yeah, even today. Well said. When I was a senior in high school, we had an exchange program with a bunch of German high school students, and I became friendly with some of them. And they invited me to visit them in Germany. This was the summer before I started college. And I was torn. I didn't know I wanted to be a rabbi then, but my Jewish identity was very important to me, and I had a close relationship with my rabbi. And I met with him. And he said to me, and I think quite accurately, as you just said, that Judaism does not believe in collective guilt. I mean, maybe there's an exception in today's Torah portion, but generally speaking, Judaism doesn't believe in collective guilt. And these 18-year-old German kids had absolutely nothing to do with what their grandparents might have done, decades before to my grandparents or to Jews who were killed in Europe during the Second World War. So I think that's very well put. Other thoughts, Barbara? And then Ann?
I want to add that in spite of what I said, I don't want to go to Germany.
Well, some don't, yeah. And some people I know, actually Barbara, you go after Ann. Some people, when I grew up in Chicago, would not buy German or Japanese cars for quite a while for similar reasons. I don't know if anyone does that anymore. World War II was a long way away. Ann?
I remember when I went on a cruise to Prague and the other cities there, our tour guide was a lovely woman, and she was German, and I was not comfortable with her at first. But at the end of the tour, because she was so kind, I remember saying to her, I could go to Germany now. I never thought I could because of you. And she said to me, that's one of the highest praises I've ever had. And when you think rationally, my children are not me, my grandchildren are not me, our ideas are different. I'll never forget the Holocaust, of course, and I think I still have the guilt as a brown-eyed, brown-haired little girl watching the things. But I think that it's a different generation, and please God, we're vocal now and keep saying never again.
Thank you. Barbara?
to go back to retribution or justice, I'm always just in awe of people whose family member was, attacked or hurt. And I mean, there are some people who, look to forgive rather than have retribution, look to keep in contact with the assailant, with the attacker who's in prison. I'm always amazed, but to me it's, whatever brings you peace at night. And I think, each case is different. I mean, Eichmann, for example, I think many more people have peace with Eichmann, having been tried in Israel and executed. But, it is different and very personal. And I would imagine situational as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's right. And I think it's not limited to the Jewish community. I think a lot of people here, if you look at the debate about capital punishment, if you look at the new movement called restorative justice, there are a lot of people talking these days about our system of justice and when is it really justice and when is it just retribution. And the question of when we should forgive and when we should retaliate, I think is a universal one. It's not limited to the Jewish community. Harriet, we'll give you the last word. Unless, was there, Rona, did you have something else? Oh, Wendy. We'll give Wendy the last word.
Both my parents were refugees, my father from Romania, my mother from Germany. And my father's family, unfortunately, never believed it would happen, and so they stayed. So most of his family ended up in concentration camps. But his attitude was always, we have to remember, but we also have to forgive. Otherwise, we cannot go on. It will consume us. We belonged to a synagogue in Mount Vernon that was the closest town to where we lived. And we hosted every year German students that would come. Our synagogue had some sort of organization, whatever, that German students would come and spend part of the summer with us. And my father always had some of them come to our house and stay with us. And he was a very righteous man. And that's really has stayed with me.
Thank you. Yeah, I think each individual, as Barbara said, has to sort of decide for themselves how to handle this. Wendy.
Boy, I get the last word.
Yeah.
My mother was quite a character, and I was raised with the don't buy the German cars. And then all of a sudden, I went away to college, and there's a BMW sitting in our driveway, and I was like, Mom, what's up with that? And she said, the best revenge is living well and let Hitler roll over in his grave. That's the kind of woman she was. It was hilarious. The other thing I want to share is I have a dear friend who's from Germany. She is in my generation. And one day she shared with me how wonderful it was that we had this friendship. And she said, my generation of Germans grew up with such guilt and remorse around what happened. And to be able to have a friendship with me was one of the most rewarding things for her. And who would have thought that the current, thought in the country is that way? And I am taking that Prague trip, so I want to hear all about it. And I think we go to Germany at some point through that tour, so.
Thank you, Wendy. That reminds me of, there was a professor, a theologian, who I had the privilege of studying with in Israel during my junior year abroad. His name is Emil Fackenheim. He passed away a few years ago. And he very famously created this notion, which is different than justice and vengeance. It's similar to what you said about the best way to kind of stick it to Hitler. He said there is a 614th commandment now in the post-Holocaust world. And the 614th commandment is not to give Hitler a posthumous victory. And the way we don't give the Nazis a posthumous victory is by celebrating Jewish life, being here on Shabbat like we're doing now, educating our children and grandchildren, and surviving as a people and hopefully thriving. That is how we don't give him a posthumous victory. So there are other paths beyond just vengeance, and that's one, just celebrating our identities, our lives as Jews. So thank you all for your comments. Is it, Rona, is it?
Psychologist, and she worked at
Okay, thank you. And just going back to Howard's point as we close, even in this Torah portion itself, there's a tension. You know, the beginning seems to talk about forgiveness. Toward the end of the Torah portion talks about never forgetting. So one of the things about Judaism that I love, and I was just talking to Rabbi Beisel about this the other day, he still talks about Judaism even in the throes of his grieving. Judaism doesn't really provide a lot of answers. It provides some answers, but not a lot. Mostly it just helps us to wrestle with questions in a more intelligent way. And I think this question of justice versus vengeance is one of the big ones. And I hope this conversation was helpful. It was to me. We're going to turn now to page 374 as we return the Torah to the Ark. And I'd like to ask you to please rise.
Odo al eretz v'shamayim vayarem keren le'amo tehila lechol chasidav lifnei Yisrael am karovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim ba v'tomacheha me'ushar deracheha darchei noam tom kivotecha shalom Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Kakedem.
The Aleinu is on page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol v'ateit gedula li'yotzer b'reshit shelo asanu kigoyeh haratzot v'lo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'goralenu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai V'melech Al Kol Ha'aretz V'yom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Ushemo Echad.
Please be seated. So I don't think I'm going to read the announcements again unless you want me to. We read them last night. But I do want to acknowledge just the birthdays and anniversaries because that's always something happy to do before we get to the mourner's Kaddish. So we have a bunch of birthdays for this month. Denise Kaduri, Michelle Herbs, Wolf Lehman, Tama Edelman, Jennifer Walker, Dahlia Aronson Lopez, I think she's our youngest birthday, Lauren Goldstein, who's a new member, and Tricia Florsheim. We also want to wish happy anniversary to Michael and Leslie Deller. It's their 40th. David and Mary Pim Margulies, their 44th. David and Lola Safer, their 53rd. And Jan and Tom Sabo, their 32nd. Anyone else have anything celebratory other than a birthday or anniversary they want to just acknowledge while we're all here? Rivka? We made it through the heat wave, yeah. That's true. We finally have a nice day again. Okay. All right, good. Well, we're gonna shift gears now, and as we reach the end of our service, we think of those who are no longer with us, those who have died both recently and in seasons past. We remember those who died during the preceding 12 months. Erica Cornelison, Gladys Shubin, Richard Magano, Clark Smith, Stephanie Rab-Axner, David Ernesto Kaplan, Pat Pate, Annette Goldberg, Maggie Sherman, Sandra Banco-Fichtenberg, Nicholas Huff, George Montano, Dean Wilson, Norman Charney, David Alpert, Renee Munoz, Michael Kassin, Paul Jaworski, Ed Eston, Micah Bisel, Jill Daly-Katz, and Gabriel Harrison Escalera. We also honor and remember the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of the deaths of Beatrice Samrick, Shirley Gordon, Ken Levine, Gary Stoltz, Martin A. Cohen, Louise Kamer, Grace Becker, Marion S. Lehman, Sylvia Galler, and William Isidore Teller. Does anyone have a name that they would like to add? The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah v'alma divrach herotei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'gala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'tadar v'yitalel v'yitalal shmei dekudsha b'richu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all those in mourning, and comfort to all those who are bereaved, and let us all say amen. Please be seated. We have a final song, and then we'll do Kiddush Motzi, and I think we have a little oneg waiting for us. So what would you like to close with this morning?
I don't know. You guys have
Any
request?
favorites?
Do you have a favorite you want to end with? Come on, Howard. Adon Olam? Okay. Adon Olam it is. Let's see. Let me find a page number for that. Okay, Adon Olam 625. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, V'yet Nasa, V'chefsachol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'yacharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora Adon Olam, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hoveh, Hu Yepatifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, V'yet Nasa, V'chefsachol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Echad, V'ein Sheni, L'ham Shelo L'hachbira, V'li Reshit, Beli tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, V'yet Nasa, V'chefsachol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Eli, V'had Goali, V'tzur Chevli B'et Tzara Adon Olam, V'hu nisi, umano sleep, not kosi, v'yom ekra Adon Olam, Adon Olam. B'terem Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, V'yet Nasa, V'chefsachol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, B'yado, Afkid Kul Ruchi, Be'et Ishan V'a'ira, That's your part. Ve'imruchi gaviyati Adonai or velo ira Adon olam Asher malach v'terim kol Yitzir nira ve'et nasa achef sokol Azai melech shemo nikra Adon olam
Please rise.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen Amen L'chaim.
I like yelling L'chaim, you like singing it. We can do both.
Yeah,
I just like saying L'chaim.
and let's bring back that custom. I don't know where, we don't have to stick to the other one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei Avon.
B'tei Avon. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom. B'tei Avon.